And instead of me trying to put my emotions in words, I would break things and I would punch walls and just all type of asinine type things that I would do that was very damaging to our relationship.
You are listening to Motivation and Confidence.
All right, everybody worldwide, you're now tuned into Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best. And I'm your host, Tom Danger. Back this week with a new episode. Thank you so much for showing your support. Thank you so much for going along the journey with us. I hope that you found the information useful, things that you can apply in your daily life to help you do your daily best. If you haven't already done so, please like, subscribe, share, or comment. If you have ideas that you'd like to share with us, you can email me at TommyDanger, TommyDanger, @gmail.com, or follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Handle is Tom Danger, TOMDANGER. Don't be afraid. I get back to everybody, but thank you so much for showing your support. This week's episode is sponsored by Simpler. If you'd like for your beard to stay evenly colored and take away some of the gray, check out Simpler. It's a natural hair product with no parabens, no chemicals. Simpler, you can check it out. 20 minutes, even out the color of your beard. Nothing wild, keep you looking fresh. So recently I've gone on the journey of, I want to say, I don't want to call it self-assessment, or I basically took a personality test, okay? And the personality test that I took was called a DISC assessment, which is, you can find personality tests all over the place. Let's put it that way. But each of the letters, the D, the I, the S, and the C, talks about different things within your personality. Decisions, being stable. I can't remember all of them. I'll put it within the comments. But it gives you a very well-rounded perspective of how you deal with things in your natural state versus your adaptive state. An example. As I'm shooting this video, there's probably a heightened sense of engagement because I want you to feel the energy that I'm giving to you. So some of you, it may seem a little bit exaggerated. For other people, it may seem as if it's a higher level of interest, okay? And between the two, or let me say, the personality that you see on the video is what some would consider from the DISC assessment the adaptive state, okay? The adaptive state is basically how your personality is modified when you know that people are watching, okay? So naturally, my personality is considered as a flight attendant. I want everybody to feel good, welcome, so forth, and it's on a scale of 0 to 100. And each number or each percentage represents a different word, okay? And in my natural state, I'm still considered what's called a flight attendant, or some people may call me a, what do you call it? Air traffic controller, which is a person that likes to do things that are very calculated and systematic. Yes, this is what I do also. But in doing this assessment, I have found that I ignore my feelings. And it led me to believe, or to think more about, as men, how much do we get in touch with our feelings? Most of the time when we're kids, is growing up as young boys, you know, if something happens and you scrape your knee or you fall down, you know, the other guys that are around, most of the time, they're like, what you crying for? Get up, shake it off, right? Even with my own sons, there was a point in time when I was exactly like that. Not knowing that I was damaging the ability to express themselves emotionally down the line. Because now as you begin to feel things, you sort of make yourself numb to it. And if you don't make yourself numb to it, you don't find the right words to articulate how you're feeling because you've never done it before, you know? And I suffered from this for years. I would be in a relationship or in my marriage and there would be disagreements. And instead of me trying to put my emotions in words, I would break things and I would punch walls and just all type of asinine type things that I would do that was very damaging to our relationship. As time went on, I went to seek therapy. And in seeking therapy, it's sort of like going on a date, right? Because you go and you meet all these different people and you have to see whether or not your personality meshes with the therapist that you're sitting across from. And I remember one time I was with the therapist, and I'm not sure if this is standard protocol in asking questions, but she asked me whether or not I was gay, on drugs, or in a gang. And I was highly offended when she asked me that, because honestly, I thought she was only asking me that because I was a black man. So I quickly terminated that session and I never went back to her again. Then, more recently, I decided to seek out therapy again because I found myself with these emotions that I couldn't express. In particular with my daughter. It's a whole nother ball game when you have college kids come back, or your older children come back to live at home with you once they're adults. It's a whole different dynamic. And for a while, it was a challenge. And I found myself reacting instead of taking the time to understand the way that she was feeling, the way my wife was feeling, the way my son was feeling, younger son, younger daughter. And I would just become like this grumpy old man. And I said, wait a minute, this ain't the move. This is not how I want to be. I have to figure something out. So being online, I ran across one of those cool ads that says, hey, do you want to learn more about yourself? Do you want to know what your superpower is? Do you want to become the best you can be? I mean, it was the perfect sales pitch, right? Click here and you can find out for free. So I clicked on it and I took the assessment. And I've taken it 3 times already in the past year. And it changes. I went from a very, very high C, which is a person that wants to always have things perfect and very cautious and systematic, to shifting to a person that wants to make everyone feel good. And I found this to be more effective. The self-reflection, the self-assessment, the personality test, whatever you want to call it, to be more effective because it forces me to look at the things that I may not necessarily look at without having the objection of the therapist across from me. So it's almost like self-therapy, okay? To take it a step further, I gave the assessment to pretty much my wife and kids. 4 kids and my wife, we all took the assessment. And not to sound like a salesman here, but through that assessment, I was able to see the different personalities that we have so that I could become a better communicator when dealing with them. In addition, because I further understand myself, because once you look at the, let's call it questionnaire, right? Once you look at the questionnaire, and it only takes like 10 minutes. My kids, they were 12 when they took it. My oldest son is 26 and my wife took it. So it's not even something that's like super complicated. It's drag and drop. It's real quick. It's real easy. Okay. And when each of them took it, I was able to look at it and go, wow, your superpower or your dominant personality trait is this. And it's usually based upon something that you've gone through, something that's caused you to sort of lean more toward that particular behavior. So I could ask the question. And in asking the question, I could sort of get a feel for why they think the way that they think and feel the way that they feel. And you ever hear the saying, divine, all things in, well, everything is in divine time, or everything is in divine order? It has been perfect during quarantine or lockdown, or, you know, whatever you want to call it during the pandemic, right? Because you can imagine you have all these personalities in one household, and you're so used to just sort of passing by each other, and now you're actually engaged with each other for a long period of time. In the first week, it was mayhem. It was rough. I didn't know who was who, and I didn't realize you had that type of habit or you did certain things, me and my wife and my kids. But I actually separately, after they took the questionnaires, I asked them questions about that dominant personality trait, and it was sort of like, to me, an aha moment, right? Like, oh wow, I didn't realize that there were certain past behaviors that I had that had impacted my kids, that impacted my wife, that I'd done some things that basically made me feel like a piece of shit. Like, what was I thinking? Why was I being so egotistical? Why was I being so cold-hearted, you know? Wow, just thinking back, it just puts me in a different space. But as I continually to go through the questionnaire, there's many layers to it, right? So when you start looking at each component, you may find out the one aha from your dominant, but then you have these other three that may be low or a little bit higher. And then you start to ask yourself the question of, well, why is it that I feel that way, right? So for example, I am heavily into fitness, right? And eating right. And that basically came from me seeing other people in my family suffer from diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure. I have high blood pressure. You know, it's genetic, and I do my best to still eat the right foods. I slip. I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? I drink. I have junk food. I just do it in moderation. That's not the dominant of my diet. But because of seeing that in my family, I said, whoa, this is something that I have to be very mindful of. If I can take control of it, let me do the best that I can do to make it better. So all this to say, don't ignore your emotions, okay? Don't ignore your children when they may be going through something, or they just may sit off in a corner, or they say everything's all right, because everything may not necessarily be all right. They and us as adults, we may not necessarily have the vocabulary to express ourselves in what we're feeling. And what I found is, through doing this assessment and by surrounding myself with a group of people who have a better understanding of the assessment or questionnaire, I've been able to find out more things about myself. Now, if you want to take the questionnaire, I can provide you with the link free of charge. I'm not trying to sell you anything. And you can see, you know, where it falls. It's a 22-page. If you do the assessment, I can provide some guidance for about 20 or 30 minutes if you're interested. Anything beyond that, you know, is time. So it would have to be something that you're willing to commit to over a period of time. But I definitely recommend it, especially during this time when we may have that extra time, or when you feel as if you want somebody to talk to, or you want a sounding board, but you don't want to go to therapy. And I know, especially as African Americans, we have this idea that therapy is, you know, sort of like voodoo, like we don't want to be bothered with it, but it's not true. You know, every therapist, every situation is different. I've had some good therapists, I've had some bad therapists. It's just that this particular tool at this moment has helped me, and I just wanted to share it with you. If it helped me, hopefully it can help you. And if it helps you, it can help your loved ones, and just help all the people that you come in contact with. So don't ignore your emotions. If you don't want to take a personality test, focus on some meditations. Just focus on the light. Focus on the things that make you feel good. And next week, we'll be back with something even better. This is Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best.